Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Along Came Love, directed by Katell Quillévéré. This is a quiet, emotionally intricate film about the messiness of life and how love, though often fragmented and fraught, can still take root in difficult circumstances. It's about shame, it's about secrecy and fleeting moments of connection. What it isn't is neat, and that feels a little unsatisfying at times, but I think that is also its strength. The story begins with trauma. A young French woman, Madeleine, has an affair with a German officer during the war and becomes pregnant. After liberation, she's publicly humiliated, something that happened to many women who had relations with the enemy. The child is born into that silence and stigma, growing up with the quiet, aching sense that he's unloved, desperately wanting to know more about his father, a shadow on the edge of every scene. Visually, these early scenes are striking. Shot in black and white, they evoke imagery familiar from Holocaust documentaries and post-war photojournalism. Shaved heads, swastikas painted on them, naked bodies paraded in public, the jeering of crowds, the numbness of humiliation. It's a bold and deliberate choice by Quillévéré, drawing on a shared emotional archive to blur the line between justice and vengeance. Women in this situation became scapegoats in the wake of national trauma. The imagery doesn't equate their suffering with that of Holocaust victims, but it does ask uncomfortable questions about how societies distribute shame and how complex situations get oversimplified in black and white thinking around war. Enter Francois, an academic, a man who offers Madeleine stability, financial and emotional. He's cultured, he's well off, and on paper he appears to rescue her. But something about him is elusive. There are gaps, evasions. We sense secrets, hints of a past lover, perhaps wartime guilt, perhaps concealed sexuality. The film resists defining him, which is both brave and disorienting. Like life, we're left to read between the lines at times. Their relation is very ambiguous. Francois may be rescuing Madeleine, but he's also probably rescuing himself. They do have moments of real warmth, even joy, scenes of physical intimacy that do feel tender and reciprocal, a sexual energy that builds towards the birth of their child. But that energy doesn't always align. They are in sync, then they're not. The film quietly suggests that this is the nature of human relationships. We meet, we miss, we reconnect, we drift again. This theme crystallises in the film's most uncomfortable scene, a failed threesome involving Madeleine, Francois and a young American soldier called Jimmy. It begins with a kind of dream, the fantasy that three broken people might find comfort in each other, but it ends up going wrong. Jimmy, who initially flirts with both of them, turns cold when he realises that Francois is actually aroused by him. Francois is left exposed and humiliated, and Jimmy storms out feeling objectified. Madeleine watches, disconnected. It's painful because it punctures the illusion of mutual desire and shows how loneliness can drive us towards false synchronicity. No one's needs are actually met. The scene lingers, not because it's dramatic, but because it captures that peculiar human sadness of reaching for connection and finding only confusion. And yet, for all its nuance, I didn't quite love this film. There was something faintly unsatisfying about the ending. It felt a little bit flat, as though it faded rather than resolved. But perhaps that is the point. Life doesn't always build to a climax or deliver catharsis, especially in morally ambiguous situations. In fact, given the stark moral imagery the film begins with, the echoes of war crimes, public shame, historical atrocity, how could it possibly end cleanly? I admire films that sit in the grey zone, that show the multiple angles of complex decisions. The condemnation of women who had affairs with German soldiers is a striking example. People want war to be a story of good and evil, but the suffering often exists in the murky middle. Director Katell Quillévéré handles all this with delicacy. The film spans almost 20 years, but it feels intimate. grounded in the textures of daily life. The cinematography is restrained and naturalistic, handheld, sunlit, attentive to faces. Time passes very subtly, almost invisibly, and this helps us feel the emotional erosion, the way things weigh down, the way love changes shape. Along Came Love is a love story, I think, but definitely not about perfect love. It's about what happens when broken people try to love in the aftermath of shame, in the presence of secrets. It's a story of real human beings, flawed, fumbling, occasionally cruel, occasionally kind. I did enjoy this film. It kept me engaged and I cared about the characters. I would recommend it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.